Hi friends, welcome. Today I want to share with you a conversation I just had with a friend who I've been interacting with online for a while now via Instagram. We've had very slow motion chat conversations and direct messages. And he is somebody who has enjoyed my work for a while now. That's how he found me. And I was looking over his work and I thought, he's very talented. He has fantastic live performance work. And live performances of all sort, not just music. He has shots of the circus, shots of dancers, of course shots of live music. And he's got an interesting handle on composition in a way that makes his photos have a nice harmony to them. He creates context to the way he frames things. He also has a nice handle of the expressions of the people in the shot in a way that makes his photos more compelling. And I'm going to say his name in the best way possible through my American accent, Thiago Roma. We had a lovely conversation. We spoke about his process and the things that I think makes his mind unique and create such unique work. I would encourage you to check him out below. I will link to his things. Enjoy. Thank you so much for giving me some of your time, man. How are you today?
I'm fine. What about you?
I'm doing quite well. I'm excited to talk with you. And it's so cool to have somebody who knows like a couple of years of my background. Like, I feel like you can say things about me that I forget happened.
Probably good.
That's a bizarre position to be in. But I want to talk about your work today. I really enjoy your photography. I think you're very talented and you have a lot of unique you have a lot of unique ways of going about taking photos of specifically performances and all sorts of different types of performances. And you do something that I see a lot of people do not so well, or you do something that a lot of people don't do well. So it's a strength of yours that you know what I mean. You focus heavily on the expressions of the people in the shot. And I find in a lot of particularly music photography, people don't pay close attention to the expressions of the people, and it's just kind of odd. You also pay close attention to framing. Your framings are incredibly lively and interesting. And you whether you're cropping or whether you're framing them in the camera, they have this energetic feel to them that I really love. So one of your first photos is of the musical variety of performance, and it's of a guy on a stage. He has two lights behind him, these bright, blinding stage lights coming off. An interesting compositional piece for sure. He's a silhouette. He has this fuzzy hair. He's playing guitar. The light is very warm. He has this lovely expression on his face of a very passionate song that he is singing, I presume. Mm-hmm. And it's an example of what I think is interesting about your work. The part of composition being so well-rounded and interesting, but also the expressions on people's faces being prioritized. This photo would not have worked so well for me if his mouth was kind of closed or just opening in a weird way, or his, he had one eye closed, or, something like that, because people have one eye closed frequently. But, but what was this, how did this photo come to be for you in the first place?
Well, this particular photo has a trait that a friend of mine who actually he worked as with animation. He got some kind of formations in Europe and everything. But anyway, I just digressed. He once told me that one thing he saw in my stage pictures that he liked is how I keep expressions even in the shadow part. So like in this picture, you were telling about the mouth and the eyes. And it's all in the dark. It's almost a silhouette. You almost see nothing of the performer, but you can still see those, like, almost don't see it expressions. You see, and
semi-silhouetted.
I think it's nice because, as you said, the composition, the lights crossing is the most prominent part of the composition, I think. And what I like about it is, one, one stray of light is crossing right in his back, and
which separates him. I just realized that right before you said it. It separates him from the background and makes his silhouette really work.
Yeah, and the fuzzy hair helps make this glowing aspect, and in the part that's out of the light, you see.
Sure. Yeah, so it's almost like he has a lunar eclipse behind his head.
Yeah, like a light spot right behind him.
Right.
That's not the case, just reflected light from the crescent beam.
You did make a good point that his expression is still seen in the shot, even though he's in the shadow. And I think this photo would be dramatically less interesting if you couldn't see his facial expression.
Yeah, of course. That's the thing. Compositionally speaking, I think the photo would work even if you couldn't see his expression, because of all the things I was telling, the way he pops out in this glow in his hair and in all his body. But what makes it special is the expression still there. You could have all this dreamy feel of the stage, like these glorious lights with not much color, just one color, like all celestial. And at the same time, you can see him having, like, say, really passionate about what he's doing.
Right. And the colors are very minimalistic too, and that's one of the benefits of shooting live performance photography. Is a lot of times the stage lighting does a lot of the work for you in creating an interesting environment, and a lot of times the people who are running the lighting systems, they're going to be working with one or two colors. This is different than street photography per se, where you have thousands and thousands of colors going around. You have trash cans and cars and bicycles and people that you don't want in the shot. That's an interesting strength of taking photos of people on stage. But the hard part of that is that a lot of stage photos look a lot alike, because the scenes look a lot alike and the bands look a lot alike. So you have to figure out a way to really think differently and create a compelling photo in the midst of something that's been photographed a million. It's like taking a photo of, I don't know, the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yeah,
it's been everyone has taken a photo of the Golden Gate Bridge if they're a photographer and they've been to San Francisco. And every now and then you come across people who take a photo of the Golden Gate Bridge in a new way, in a way that's really compelling. And a lot of times that has to do with just the photos being fundamentally compelling in their nature in the first place, that they were thoughtful.
Could be another bridge. What works not the bridge, what works the feel of the bridge in that specific photo.
And a lot of times it's like the ones that I see really work well in those types of environments where something is shot over and over and over is when I feel like the photographer has injected their own personal feeling into the shot somehow, whether that's the way that they edited the photo or the mood of the environment around the photo. You know, with the Golden Gate Bridge, for example, you see plenty of you have plenty of examples of the weather being very moody, and then that turns the shot into something quite different, right? It's covering the top of the tower. The fog is covering the top of the tower, utilizing things like that to try to inject some emotional quality into it is something that tends to set photos apart. But I think that tends to start within the heart of the photographer's ability to see that around them and take advantage of that. That's the thing that can be that can separate one from another. Okay, so I want to move on to another one of yours.
Okay.
Also, a musical performance photography photograph, rather. We have a shot of a drummer on stage, and this one is very interesting to me because you have the drummer singing, which makes the drummer more of a subject in the photo. In the foreground, you have this sort of sub-framing element, which I think is so genius, where you have the other band members out of focus around the drummer. And what this does is it creates context. You see the other band members and you understand that they're there. You understand that they have guitars, bass guitar. You learn more about the photo without taking away from the subject of the photo and the primary point of the photo, which is the drummer who is playing drums and singing at the same time. And there's also a nice balance of colors, warmer tones closer up, cooler tones in the back, good separation, this sort of thing. So how did this photo come together for you?
In fact, this photo is really recent. I think I took it less than a month ago. And it was in a place here in my city that receives a lot of gigs of independent, small to medium range bands. And it was in fact the premiere of this band. There was their first gig. And the drummer, in fact, she's a backing vocal. There's a lead singer who's out of the frame, and she was making a backing vocal in the time of this shot. And I will connect two things you said about this photo and the last one, about the lighting being always the same and this sort of thing, and separating it from other photographers' work. In this particular place, there's not much light structure. There's, I don't know, 5 or 6 LED spots that are controlled by a table. There's always someone controlling them live. And that's it. You don't have much thing to work with. Sometimes you can help to figure out where those spots will be, so you can think ahead and try to put some light in the subjects you will try to take in your pictures, but sometimes don't. This day I couldn't get there early enough, so when I got there, there was already set. And when I was trying to take this picture, in the entire time I was trying to make this frame work, all the lights were lit blue. So the subframing in effect wasn't that good, because as much the foreground was out of focus, there was still a feel that was all blending. It was all the same layer, you know.
So there was a separation.
Yeah, there's not much separation. There was all blue, and seemed that they were like 2 feet away from each other, not the 10 feet they were actually in.
Sure.
So I just make the composition, and was there like 3 or 5 minutes. The music ended, and they started another run until the guy who was controlling the lights started to turn everything yellow, but he started with the front lights. So in this little moment when he had already turned the front ones yellow and was reaching for the knob for the back ones to turn yellow too, I could take this picture.
Oh, I see. So the whole scene was very blue, right?
Yeah.
And you waited, or you didn't wait, it just kind of happened, where the lights turned yellow and then the other ones had not turned yellow yet, so you were able to create this contrasting feeling.
Yeah.
Clever.
And 2 seconds later than I clicked, everything was yellow, so
wow,
it wouldn't work again.
Oh, that's amazing. So you have to be on your toes.
Yeah, I think that's the deal with taking the stage lights that are almost always the same and trying to make different things, is try to understand who's driving the lights, if there's anyone, or it's a program. Anyways, how the lights are turning colors, and try to find patterns, try to find ways to make some blend out, not just take a click based on only the performer expression. Have that in mind, but also wait for that perfect moment when the light will seem a little off, you know.
How important is getting there early enough beforehand so that you can study things before everything starts happening for you?
It don't really matter that much, because most of the times you get there will be a wide standard light in the whole stage. People will be connecting cables and finding the sounds. There will be a lot of people working with a light completely different from the one that will be used in the gig. So when the gig starts, you better be there so you can most quickly get these patterns and think out what we will do in the next 30 minutes before the show ends.
Sure. Shift your mind into gear quickly.
Yeah.
I find that the good thing, the good part of arriving early is, because you're absolutely right, the lighting is completely different, but you can at least scope out and mind plan where you're going to stand and where the band is probably going to be, where the drums are set up, and come up with ideas as you're surrounded with that environment in ways that you wouldn't necessarily come up with if you were trying to just plan at home the day before.
No, that's true, but it's not that much of a difference after all, because even if you get there earlier and choose the place and try to make these routes, like I can get up there and get here quickly so I can take this and that kind of pictures there and here. That is nice. You can make some of these plans on the pre-hand, but you don't know if there will be 10 people watching the show or will be 10,000 people. So it happened to me. Sometimes I get there early and I make these routes and plan these sorts of things out. But as soon the public starts coming and the show starts getting on, you just can't move. All your plans don't work, and then you start to feel like, why I'm doing wrong? I'm still here. I should be there right now.
Right.
And it kind of messes my mind more than helps. When I make a plan and it don't work out, not slightly like it, like I thought it, I start to get really, I don't know, more anxious than I would if I saw everything as
Be present. Be present, yeah. And another thing is, photography, it has a lot of slow parts to it, specifically editing, right? Very slow and meandering process. But there are parts of photography in just when you're out taking photos in the street, if you're taking photos of any sort of performance where things are moving, anything other than landscape photography, I suppose. Even then, I'm sure there's some heightened energy, but things go really, really fast. And it happens like that. It's a switch. Everything starts happening in your mind. You have to be able to shift into a gear where you're anticipating what's going to happen next. You're in the moment. You're thinking to the future, but you're also thinking of right now. You have to pay attention to what's immediately happening, but also what's going to happen when the next band comes up. How is this going to change? Am I going to be ready for that? So it's like be present in the past, now, and future at the same time. That's what photography is. And that, to me, is one of the greatest thrills of taking photos, is putting yourself in a position where you have to perform and everything is happening at once and you have to creative problem solve on the fly. And it's unique to different types of performances in an interesting way, where a lot of performances have that quality to it. I feel like photography has a bit of a separation from that. It's not necessarily better. It's just a bit of a separation from even playing music on stage, for example. Okay, I want to move on to another photo of a drummer, and maybe I picked this subconsciously because I am a drummer and I like drummer photos. Another thing is that, as I talk about this, I'll go ahead and show the next photo, but I think that taking good expressions of drummers in particular is something that I critique heavily in photography around me, but it's also extremely difficult to do well because there are a lot of moving elements. You have arms flailing, you have legs flailing. In this case, you have hair flailing. The face is not always predictable because the drummer is not generally singing, right? So the drummer, a lot of times, they're just sticking their tongue out trying to stay on beat, or they're doing nothing interesting at all with their face. And so you really have to anticipate when they're going. You have to pay attention to patterns, right? You have to anticipate when they're going to make another gesture that's interesting and compelling. In this case, I think you did it extremely well. We have a drummer who pretty close-up shots, very... it's a lot less of a dynamic framing as the previous one in the sense that you have the guitars with the subframe and this sort of thing, but still just a straightforward, fantastic shot. And what makes this shot so compelling is the drummer's expression. He's got his mouth hanging open, his hair's flying around, his drumsticks you can tell that they're going down to hit the net, and the problem is that you can easily have drumsticks conflicting in weird ways compositionally. In this case, they're separated. They feel really nice. You see the cymbal has just been hit, and it's flopping downward. I was
going to talk about that.
Yeah, everything feels so decisive moment here. It feels really perfect in a lot of ways. And so, how did this photo come to be?
I think I always thought when people comes to ask me like how you got that particular moment, how you got that exactly moment where all things were working together, as I said. And I think this when you're photographing bands and music, not the other stage photography, but especially for music, is just truly listen to the music the band's playing, because all the parts where the band will make some explosive expression, you could feel it if you're hearing the music when it's coming.
Right,
like,
right.
The music is in a crescendo, and then when everything's going to blow, someone will jump or do something.
Yeah. That's a very interesting way to put it.
So I think it's part of be present idea. You don't just see what's going on. You listen, you feel, you smell, you try to get all your senses to predict what's going in the next 2 seconds when you will raise up your camera. And this particular picture, it's curious. I took it the same day as the first one we were talking about. It was a music festival. There was plenty of bands, and this band was there was no pit stage. There was no space for photographers or anyone exactly in front of the stage. So you had to maneuver through the crowd. And in this particular band, the front of the stage was all filled with long-haired teenagers screaming and kicking each other, and there was really no way you could enter there with a camera and get out without bruises and with some photos. So I took my 75 to 300 millimeters. The thing is a nightmare to stabilize. If you breathe, the shot is out.
Did you keep your shutter speed pretty low in that situation?
Yeah, of course, but still, the thing's a nightmare. You could go as up as 4,000, and it was still blur everything. It's really hard, especially when you're in the middle of a crowd because everybody's dancing and stumbling into you. So you'll have to look at the frame and look around. Right. So we want to get punched in the face. And
that's an added dimension of spontaneity that's going on is when you go to a hardcore show, right? Somebody might get thrown into your face.
Somebody. So what I did was the show was going on in a big, I don't know the word for this. It's like a big barn, but with brick walls. It's an industrial kind of situation, and I went all I could to the left and bent myself upon a wall, so I could really make myself a human tripod.
Right.
And
use the structure to give you some stabilization.
Yeah, the wall is the best stabilizer.
Right. Points of contact. That's how I took this photo. So I zoomed in all I could, and all the teenagers were really low, so I could pass upon them all
I have, I don't know, in metrics is 1.95 centimeters. I'm pretty high. So I could pass through above everything, everyone, and get this close-up shot of the drummer.
Clever.
And about the moment is that thing I was telling you about. The band was was making a riff for like a long time now. Everyone got crazy. And then I realized all the teenagers who were fans of the band was starting to like crouch.
Yeah.
And then I say, that's the time.
That's it. Now's the time.
I made the frame, and then the drummer went, bah, 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 pow,
yeah.
Then the picture was made.
Fantastic, man. You seem to be good at thinking on your toes, and that's awesome. That's cool. It's a fantastic photo. And I love all the fog flying around as well. That really adds a level of atmosphere to it.
Yeah. As the teenager was going down, the fog was going up. I said, that's now.
It's time. It's my moment of truth. This will change my life forever. Okay, so the next one I want to take a look at is a bit of a different type of live performance. We have, I would suppose this would be a couple of people who are in a circus. And we have a man on the bottom, all the way on the bottom, holding up another guy somehow, by some feat of science, holding this man up. His body is fully extended. He's upside down. They're holding each other up, connected by the hands, right? And the guy, what I find so interesting about this photo is the way you framed it. The guy's feet are almost to the very top of the frame. They're just below the top of the frame. He fills up the entire vertical expanse of the frame. Everything around him is just stage lighting and a white sheet and some blue lights coming down. So minimalistic and organized, well done. Yep. But the contrastingness of the blue lights against the warmer tones of the people really makes this work well. You see the concentration on the guy's face, the one who's holding the other guy up. My if I was doing this, my face would not be concentration; it would just be sheer terror, because I would assume that everything's about to go horribly wrong. But he looks like he knows exactly what he's doing in this moment. And what got you into taking photos at the circus? That would be my first question.
It was part of a project of a friend of mine. There's a big theater here in town that it's a lovely place. It has a big, how to say the place people go and see to watch the show. Okay,
big theater, big arena, big seating arrangement.
Seating, yeah.
Okay, a lot of places to sit. Yeah,
in a good way, everyone could see everything that was going on. You see, and
it's
closed. It has great stage lighting. It's an awesome place to make any kind of performance or music, anything. But the deal breaker, it is really expensive. So you can use this place. You have to rent it, and you would have to pay a lot of money in the entry fees to make it. At least don't make the people organizing anything have to spend even more money of their own. So there's this friend of mine. He got to know that this place in particular was opening an edital. I don't know if this word exists in English.
Okay. I'm excited. What is describe it?
Just a second, I will put it here.
Oh, he's going to write it into the chat.
Notice. No, I put it in a translator. It's a notice that Google says.
A notice?
I don't know if it's the same sense.
Oh, okay.
Anyway,
we've reached our first moment of language breakdown. You've done great so far, by the way.
Oh, nice. Anyway, it's a way to they open a session on their website where you could propose some performance of any kind, and they will evaluate if see if there is any true value to what you're proposing, and if so, they would offer a night a night each month, if I remember right, by less than half the cost to rent the place.
Oh, okay,
So
cool.
that way he thought, well, maybe we could make something work here. And the idea was once a month there will be this night of circles. So he would call many different groups of different forms of circles, like clowns and dancers and jugglers, and make like one night with some diverse representations. So there was always this format. He, the guy who was organizing everything, would come on stage. He's a clown, by the way. He would go upstage, make some jokes and all. Then he would present the first attraction, get off stage. The first attraction come in, present himself, go out. He comes back, present another, and so on. For the many attractions would be in the evening. And there was 4 or 5 editions of this project, and was really nice because there was some awesome artists from all over the country and even out of the country. This group in this picture, they are one of the best handstands of the country of Brazil.
One of the best handstands in Brazil.
Yeah, that's the literal translation. Don't know if that's right in English.
Yeah, they're like the best handstanders.
Yeah, that's it.
That's the informal way to put that. Handstand artists, handstandists. Carry on.
They were invited to Soleil Circus. I don't know that. It's a big circus company from China.
Yeah. I think I understand. Cirque du Soleil, right?
Yeah, I think that's it. They were invited to this group many times, and I always said, no, we're fine here. Don't on that. The thing is, they were really awesome. This picture is just one little fragment of their performance that was out of this world. They made some posters that will say that's not true.
It's not possible.
I can't be holding that guy with one hand upside down in the air
right.
with one foot on the ground. That's just not possible. And
I'm sure that was fantastic to see in person.
Yeah, that was the stage was all minimalist. There was this same light of this photo, the entire performance. There was no
that's good.
light, paraphernalia, nothing. Just them making their thing. And in this moment when I took this picture, it was really outstanding to see how tall they got in this position. The stage was the normals, and they were crossing the whole stage almost. So it was very impressive. The scale of size they created. So when they were in this position, I thought to myself that this sense of courageousness, this giant being they have become together, would be the great subject for the photo. I mean, translate this kind of thing. So first I took a wider shot with their both with the whole body in the frame, and it was nice. But at the same time, I lost completely the expression of the face of the guy who's down, and the expression in the back in the guy who's up. That is all muscles coming out of his back, muscles I didn't know existed. And so I took a second picture, closing in just a bit, so I could get this trace of expression and still get this giantness feel. I think the toe almost touching the top of the frame, and the fact that you can see the light points in the same level as his toes. I mean, you can see there's a guy standing up besides him, and still he's there in the top of the roof of a big stage of lots of lights.
Right. The angle really leans into this idea that they're tall, they're huge, and it's something that you would feel when you were there, but it's hard to communicate in a photo. So his foot is actually literally almost touching the light in a sense. Yeah. And also it almost touching the top of the frame. I think that's such an interesting way to communicate the tallness of them. If you would have given a lot of space, they would have felt smaller. And if you would have been on the same level as them, they would have felt smaller. You shooting up on them makes them look very heroic.
And in fact, I wasn't strictly above them. When I was taking the rest of the shots, I was in front of the stage, right above them.
Mm-hmm.
But when they started to make these poses where the guys were really high up in the stage, I moved backwards a little bit because the flare wasn't on the floor. Here, the stage, the floor is like that. So I came up a little so I could be just slightly above their level, not totally in the same level, just slightly above.
Mm-hmm.
So this sense of looking back up, from back to up, is still there, but they're not started. Like their head is big and his feet up there is small, like too far, you know.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I think it's fantastic. I think that I've never taken photos of the circus before, but to me, this is a really good way to do it. So well done.
I haven't since we started this project. I think this presentation was in the second, I think it was in the second edition. So it was, I don't know, the 6th or 7th circus presentation I was photographing in my life.
Yeah. Wait, so you got to actually be in a publication? Am I understanding that correctly?
Or
did they share it? Did they share your photos?
Yeah. The guy who was in this project, I was shooting directly for the guy who was organizing the whole deal. So
okay.
I'd go through all the presentations, and the day next or 3 or 4 days after the show, I would deliver him photos of all the presentations.
Mm-hmm.
So he could feed his social media and the project. Next edition will be promoted with these pictures of the last months. So
sure.
Look, we make some beautiful things here. Come see us.
Fantastic. Well, I'm glad you got to be a part of that project. That seems like a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, it was really nice because we got to know all those people. Every edition, when it was all over, we would gather everyone in one room and eat together and speak about art and all of those various forms. It was really, really nice experience.
That's fantastic. And as I always say, art inspires art. You can definitely find inspiration from a couple of muscly men who hold each other up on handstands.
Sure they can. Really can.
Awesome. Okay, I want to talk about some of your. Well, I suppose I forget what collection this was from as I look at it now. It's the picture of the guy dancing where he's upside down, sort of like a breakdancing kind of pose.
Yeah, it was part of the same circus project.
Part of the circus, okay. See, for a second I was thinking like we're in hip-hop dancing land, but okay, it's part of the circus.
Yeah, it was hip-hop dancing land, but inside the circus presentation.
Beautiful. Sounds like a circus I want to see.
Sure you do. This guy, he has a long-term relation with hip-hop dancing in the streets, the classical deal, but it has some years now that this happened. But back then, he was like 2 or 3 years into circus land. Mm-hmm. And he, in the circus, was juggler, was all other more classical circus breeds. Mm-hmm. And when this particular show went on, he was trying to merge the words of hip hop with the circus word. So he would propose a hip hop dance, but with the lighting and with all sorts of sound effects in the background. So he would merge those languages in one new thing. And it was really cool. The whole performance was with this kind of lighting, a blue harsh in the back and no light on him. So he was just like a shadow moving.
Very minimalistic.
Yeah, but this thing about being just a shadow moving would construct some really unique body expressions, because sometimes you couldn't see what was his arm, what was his leg. It was just a tentacle shadow.
A mess,
you know?
yeah, spaghetti of movement.
Yeah. So It was really
Interesting.
nice, as though it was the classic hip hop in this new form, in this different form. It was completely another thing, you know.
Yeah, I really love the expression. I love the separation of his legs from one another. He's in sort of the full stride of a particular expression, right? It's not, his legs aren't halfway down and you feel like they're going to go further down. Although there's a lot of motion with his, I guess that would be his right leg, left to us, where if you would have caught it in anywhere in the middle of that, it probably would have been interesting, but the amount of flexibility that's demonstrated here is really fantastic. And you have just one hand on the ground, he's holding himself up, like almost like he's floating in the air, like some other force is keeping him in the air, right? I think it's really well done.
What I tried to express in this picture was mostly that spaghetti feel, because the way his feet are pointing towards strange directions, it's like you don't know exactly which leg is which, like which one's the left leg, which one's the right leg.
Mm-hmm. When you share these photos, whether it's shooting or editing, but definitely in editing, do you have a strong idea of the story you're trying to tell with the photo, or is it sort of serendipitous?
Yeah, it's a good question. Don't know if I have just one answer to it, because it varies. I think most of the time,
sometimes it's just a feeling. You just think, you look at the photo and you think, there's something special about this, but I don't know exactly what it is, but I'm going to share it, right?
Yeah, that's it. Ideally, we try to convince ourselves that we always have purpose and we always know what we're doing. Like, I'm a photographer, I'm in the command, I know what I'm doing. But most times you actually do know what you're doing. But sometimes there's a picture that you don't even know why you shot in the place, and when you're going through making your selects, you still don't know why.
Right.
You look at it and say, I don't know why, but I won't delete it just now. I will let that rest for another day or two.
Well, and a lot of times there's something about the photo that is actually there, and it is something that you could describe if you really thought about it, but you don't necessarily know what that is. But the fact that you feel like there's something there means that a lot of times that there is something that makes it so compelling. In this case,
sometimes you. I mean, I I added some of these kind of photos and go months without realizing in words what I see in that picture that drives me, what I see of value there. And then after months, I look at that again and say, oh, I get it now. Now I see it. Sometimes because I studied something that I haven't back then, and now I understand what I did, even though I didn't know what I was doing. And sometimes I didn't saw just that.
Yeah, we're very much in an interesting dynamic relationship with our photos, I think. And I don't know if that seems like a unique thing to photography, where when you're making perhaps it works in different ways with different art forms, but in a similar kind of way to what I'm speaking to, where you will take a photo and once you get home and you look at the photo, you start building this relationship with the photo, and the relationship is either, okay, this one doesn't really mean anything, I'm going to get rid of it, or I'll keep it and, back it up somewhere, or this one's really special, and you start to have feelings about the photo. You start there's sort of a romance you feel with the photo, and you're just kind of interacting with it as you're editing it, and you're saying, what can I do with this? What can I pull out of this? And then the end result is, of course, that you share it with everyone else.
Yeah. There's a thing that happens to me a lot, that sometimes I take a picture, mostly street pictures, like I'm going somewhere, then I saw something, pick up the camera off the bag, take the picture, go home. Yeah. Not much about it. But when I get home and open the picture, I look at it and say, I did something great here.
Yeah.
As soon as I see the raw file, I already see exactly the edit I want in my head and say, that's really good, that's really cool, I'm proud of it.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as I import in Lightroom and start messing up and start getting some good looks, but not exactly the look I was seeing in my head, I go, oh, it's so good to be not that good,
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's good, I see it's good as it is, but it's not that good as I saw it.
Yeah.
So I go on and on for months tweaking it. Yeah. So I go on about months tweaking it almost 2 or 3 times a week. I open that same photo, look at it, try to mess up with the sliders a little bit, and then say no, I got it worse. Then Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. Next day I'll do it again, and stay like much more time than I would in this process until sometime I look at it and say, now I got it. Now it's perfect. Now it's exactly what I wanted with it.
That process for me tends to happen for whatever reason in cropping. I will sit there and crop a photo 35 different ways, and I'll pull it in, and I'll make with the foot almost touching the top. I'll do that, and I'll go, oh, okay, that works. Maybe I'll crop it.
Transform sliders,
portrait.
Like,
now I'm gonna do 8x10. I'm gonna go back to 3x2. Maybe I'll just uncrop it completely. No, that's not gonna work. Okay, 8x10 again, and then there's a moment where everything just clicks. And it's cropped just right.
Like everything is almost perfect, but it's so almost you feel you could make it perfect.
Right. Yeah.
So you're in this little gray area between
there's a gray area,
and perfect that you can't get out until you get out.
but also for me, I mean, there will be a moment when I'm editing where everything that I've been wrestling with and how I'm going to crop this thing, and a lot of it has to do with making sure the subject has the floor in the photo so that nothing is too distracting, but that there are still elements in the frame to give everything the proper context, that there's a harmony between everything in the photo. There's a moment where I will crop it and everything will click into place, and I'll go export, done, perfect. But it doesn't happen. There's no formula.
Yeah.
It's just chaotic and random, and then you make it work.
It's really deceiving. Sometimes you think some will be really easy and you already know exactly what you're going to do, and then you start doing it and say, no, I was wrong, this will take me hours. Mm-hmm. And the opposite also happens. Sometimes you think the selection will take me hours to edit, and then in 15 minutes it's done, all good, all perfect, and say, let's get some tea.
That's awesome. Okay, I want to move on to my favorite photo of yours in the circus category that I've seen thus far, and it is a shot of a man on stage, and he's sort of leaning sideways on one foot. He's kind of in a diagonal stance, and he's wearing a black shirt and pants, has some red accents across it. He has his hands up in the frame. And then you see in the foreground a bunch of hands from the audience, and they're sort of peeking, they're coming up into the frame just from the bottom, and they're at a diagonal sort of angle with him. He's also diagonal, right? So it mirrors each other in an interesting way. It's like poetry; it rhymes, and
everything coming together. They're inside the chaos.
Yes, and what I think is so wonderful about this photo, and the reason why it makes it my favorite, is the level of context that you achieved, where you have the guy doing his thing, but if he was alone in the shot, it would be like, okay, it's just a guy kind of leaning over, right? What's going on here?
Yeah, nothing. That's nothing.
Right. Like this guy just likes to sway back and forth. He's really excited about life, and that's great, but I don't really care. In this case, you have the hands of the crowd as well. So they're silhouetted, so they don't sort of compete with him in a compositional sense, but at the same time, they are represented, and you can tell that he's interacting with the crowd. And so you've essentially captured this profound moment of interaction with the crowd by organizing elements in a frame in a way that creates that context. And I think that's so fantastic. I think you did that really well here.
Thanks, man.
yeah, you bet, man. And how how did the shot come together compositionally for you? Because you seem like you were probably a good ways back into the crowd when you took this.
Yeah, it was a good day for me, I think, because this photo was also from the same day as the other two circus presentation.
Nice. Okay.
I was in that same place I was talking about, and the seatings arrangement there is like I don't know, like a seashell, the shell gas station logo.
Okay, right.
It's like that format, and you have
it's like a semicircle.
Seats. Yeah, you have one row of seats and corridor, another row of a thick row of stairs, and then another corridor here.
Sure.
See. So, and then here's stage.
And does it elevate as it goes to the back of the theater?
Exactly. So I was like in the middle of one of those
nice
corridors.
Illustration with your arm, by the way. I like that.
Oh.
He's got a diagonal arm.
I tend to try to explain things with my hands and my body.
You probably know I do the same thing.
Yeah, I think I'm worse in this mentally condition. But anyways, I was in the middle of this corridor, so there was no people exactly besides me. There was like 3 feet in every direction with no one, so I could get like real high on my toes to get this angle where I could get all the hands and still get his in the background with his entire body, because as I was just standing, I tried to make the composition, and the hands would cover all his legs, would cover almost to reach his face.
Right.
So I would get I feared I would get a sensation that the hands were grasping him like a mutant, a zombies movie,
Okay. Like they were coming after him almost.
Yeah, exactly. Like he was trying to get out, and the crowd was trying to grab him.
Right.
So I got on my toes, and then I could get this frame where you could see all his body, see that he's happy, relaxed. There's no one wanting to make it off his brain, and the crowd going through. This guy, in fact, the guy who organized the whole thing. He was the one presenting all the performances.
Oh, I see.
All the performers. So this moment was between two performers, and he was like cheering the crowd, like, who's liking it? Hey, let's make a hula, everybody, then he, everybody,
right.
This kind of stuff.
I like his shoelaces.
Yeah, his costume is really nice.
He's got like these like red and black striped shoelaces that I would definitely love to have on my shoes. That's a good point that you make, that it's difficult a lot of times this shot will happen, the scene will happen in front of you, but something's not quite right, where the hands are way too high in the frame, right? The hands are all the way up to his face, or they're covering his crotch, and maybe you don't want that because that's awkward. Or the hands aren't in the shot at all, right? There's complete separation. You don't get that same context. In this case, you have this really nice balance between the two, where they're not interfering with each other in an odd way, but that there's a harmony to the photo. I think that's great.
In this case, he was making the eula, like the one entire row gets up, then the next one.
Right. Okay. Yep.
He was making this move. So
now the left side. Now the center. Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. So I could anticipate the action. I could see, okay, he's starting there, then he will come here. So I make the composition, waited him to wave his arm. Everybody waved his arm. I took the photo. It's that present thing we were talking about. See what's happening.
Watch the patterns. Yeah.
That's fantastic. I really like that photo.
Okay, I want to move on to a couple of your dancing photos, and these are interesting because they don't seem to be necessarily live performances, although correct me if I'm wrong. Seems like you were very much like on the stage with the person, with the shot of the girl, and it's just like a single blue light hitting her.
Yeah.
Was that in front of a lot of people?
No, it was a closed session. There was just me and her in the room. In fact, it was
I said a smart thing.
What?
I said a smart thing.
Yeah, you read it.
I use the world to confirm if I'm smart or not. I'll say something and I'll be like, I think it was this. Was it this? And then you say, yeah, it was that. And I go, woo!
Oh.
I'm not doomed to failure.
I'm not dumb. Yeah. Anyways, the thing is that I had a lighting idea in my head that I really wanted to test out, but the idea was just the lighting, just a way to build the lighting structure and organize the light spots and everything that I thought would create a effect. And I wanted to try it. I wanted to see if my crazy idea was right, if the effect would be created as I thought it would.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea was to take a subject, light it completely from one side in a really flattened way, just not one spot, but some spots to make a light blanket. All lights from one side, the background black with no illumination in the background, so I could make one side of the subject lit and the other side completely blended to the background, so you wouldn't see any silhouette, just the lighted side.
Sure, it's quite stark too.
Yeah,
the lighting in a good way.
I made it using two LED light spots with two pizza boxes blocking the side of the light.
Amazing. Wait, so actual pizza boxes?
Actual pizza boxes.
Fantastic.
Like, just open.
Well done.
I mean, you opened it like an L. I made some structures with tape to hold it in this way, drill a hole in the side and put it the light spot. So all the light would go this way and none light would take
clever.
to the background. So, and surprisingly, it worked.
Yeah, it did.
I gave a call to a friend of mine. He's the one in the shots. She's a dancer. She's really talented.
Her body positioning is so interesting.
Yeah.
An eclectic feeling.
She's really fluid in her moves. You don't see the poses coming. They just get there and then solves and turn into another. It's really a hypnotic to watch her dance.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, hypnotic.
But anyways, I called her and said I had this idea of lighting. Would you like to try it out with me? We get somewhere and try to do some pictures. Maybe they turn out great. Maybe they don't turn out nothing. Anyway, we'll
hey, you get some pizza out of it.
Yeah, exactly. There will be pizza. Trust me, pizza's on me.
There's always pizza.
That's how it went. Then she also called a friend of hers who was a stage makeup artist, and she would develop this white dripping deal in her face. I really liked how this interacted with the blue light, and
the makeup feels very tribal, so it's quite interesting.
Yeah, and she's pretty Asian, so it kinds of it seems like it evoked some ancestral vibes.
Sure, cultural kind of, yeah.
But it wasn't the main goal. It just happened. We were just having some fun there that night, and she just put some music to play on her cell phone, started dancing. I started getting some shots. We were in this like for 10 or 15 minutes, and that was it. I had, I don't know, 15, 20 pictures I really liked.
It's funny because your setup you're describing is the moment and everything the equipment you were using and this sort of thing, felt kind of like off the cuff and not too crazy complex.
Yeah.
But and the moment was sort of off the cuff and just kind of almost playful, but that at the end you end up with a photo like this that feels so profound.
Right.
It feels so rich with interesting meaning, and it's something that you can hang up on a wall and just kind of look at and feel calm about life,
fact, right? We took these pictures, I think, in the January, February of last year, and by September, if I'm not wrong, we had there was going to be an artist meeting in a place here in the town, and one of the guys who were organizing this meeting, I don't exactly know how, have saw one of those pictures and contacted us saying, hey, there will be a bunch of artists here, and I think it would be nice to have those pictures hanging in the wall.
Great.
And whoa, great. Let's make something out of it after all.
That's fantastic.
It was really nice. We got some. I don't know if you guys have this material out there. It's EVA. It's like a dance phone.
It's say it again.
Like a dance phone.
Dance foam, like for the ground.
Yeah, but we got some really thin layers of it, black, and we could make like a frame of it and paste the picture in the middle. So you would have a made black and then the picture that is also black. So it makes a really
it's a foam.
It's like a foam, but
did you say dense foam or dance foam? I heard dance foam.
Dance.
Like it's
really dance.
Like it's thick.
Yeah.
Okay, I was thinking like foam you would dance on.
No, not really.
All right, we figured it out.
Like,
dance foam. I probably know what it is if I saw it. That's cool. Okay. So you guys framed it in that.
Yeah, that's
cool.
it.
Cool. So, how big was the print?
I don't remember the exactly dimensions, but it was like
was it small or big or huge?
19-inch monitor, like a 19-inch monitor.
Oh, okay, cool, sweet.
It was pretty big.
I'm sure, and of course, it's a different experience on a print than it is digital.
Yeah, sure. It has a lot of depth, especially these parts of her body that goes missing in the dark gets really a depth feel, like she's really
three-dimensional
herself in the dark,
Yeah. Wow. Okay, that's cool. Okay, the last one I want to talk about of your photos is from the same session, I would assume. It's of a very tight shot of the same girl, and it's actually just a portrait. She doesn't seem to be dancing at all, and you have a nice focus on her eye. You have the texture of her skin and just that single blue light on her hair being lit up just a little bit, filling much more of the frame. Whereas the last one, she was on the left-hand side of the frame, and this one, she fills up the frame. She's more centered, but she's looking off to the right. And I love the quality of this.
Yeah,
the feeling.
I liked it too. The amount of texture I could get out of her skin and the part of the skin that's covered by paint, I really love it. But anyways, this one was the last one we took this day, because she was like all dancing and making all these really stretched positions. And in the end, when the music that she was playing started to fade, I would take a really prominent stance, like the whole body leaned towards the front and stare right into the lights. It wasn't the fact that I originally wanted, because I want this thing of one side black and another one lit. So when she looked straight to the light, this effect wasn't that pronounced, but still, it was really physically exhausted by the prior 10 minutes she was moving and stretching. So she made this position, lean her entire body to the front, staring at the light, and opened her eyes, and was like,
breathing in and out.
Breathing
heavily. What is that? Exasperated. There it is.
Yeah. And I wasn't even taking pictures anymore. She just stopped moving, and I started looking at the pictures I made. Then I looked back to her, and I saw her with this like trans expression, like she wasn't even there anymore. She was completely inside her process, inside her dance, inside her body. So she didn't even notice that I pulled the camera down. She was just being there, you know. Then I pulled the camera back up and got
that
really
adds
close
such
to
an
her.
interesting
Yeah,
context of
picture.
intensity to this photo.
Yeah, her eye sensors are immense because she's staring directly at the light. So
Right.
her eyeballs are like completely black. There's no iris left.
Yeah, and it's funny that you saying that. I find the framing and everything you did in this photo accentuates that feeling where you got right up on her. You cut off the top of her head and the bottom of her head, and I
because
think
the thing that caught my attention, the expression that I was like, "Whoa, that's crazy," is mostly her eyes. So cutting the top of her head and her chin, leaving just the eyes in the middle of the frame, I think brought more.
Oh, he's gone. He's frozen. Hello. He's on his way back, I believe. Oh, connection is poor. Okay, we will wait for him to return. I'll just look at this photo. I'll enjoy it. Oh, this is such a special experience. I want to be in a position where I'm so intensely focused on what I'm doing that my irises go away. What do you think, Christina?
I'd say I wish I didn't have irises to begin with.
Christina doesn't want irises at all. Let me hit record again.
I don't know what happened. My Skype just closed itself.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, it was just done with our nonsense. Let's see.
Yeah.
Okay. We're good. Okay. All right. Hey, you're back.
Yeah.
we had
Something just went wrong. Don't know what.
you said your Skype just exploded.
Yeah, it just closed.
Okay.
Out of nowhere.
Yeah, I think it was done with our meandering about art, because art, so pretentious. Yeah. What I was going to say was that the intensity of this photo would have, and the moment that you were just describing, would have been lost if you were much further away from her, right?
Yeah.
You saw more of her body. There would be other ways that you could capture that intensity, of course, but I think one of the ways you did it was a really good one here, where you're right up in her space. I think that's fantastic.
I was using a 15 mil, so in fact, I was saying before the Skype exploded, I was trying to focus all the attention in her eyes. So what I did was get as close as my 50 mil would focus, and then make the composition out of that.
Fantastic. Okay, well, I'm curious, what are your goals moving forward with your photography?
As you were saying, in my portfolio and on my pages, I focus a lot on the stage photography because it's the helm I found myself more useful, right? I get more proud of the work I get out of it. So the main goal is to get to work with only that, because nowadays I make a lot of other stuff that I don't even publish because I want to move away from all those things and get more into this thing, But I think that any journey where you know exactly where you want to go, you have to know that the path will be even worse, because there won't be much drive-ins in the side of the road, or roads you could take a little detour and then come back. If you have this goal really settled in your head, seems like anything else you're doing or anything else your experience doesn't add exactly to the path you're walking. So you're like, why do it that?
So you focus your eye irises intensely on just this one thing, and I think that's great, because I think what a lot of photographers do, specifically earlier on in their journeys, is they will go 95 different directions, and that's fantastic. I think a lot of times that's very useful, But when it comes to trying,
if you don't know exactly what you're about to do everything until you find that one thing that say, oh,
sure.
That's it.
Sure. Yeah. I think floundering around is a good way to find your passion in photography, because there's a lot of types of photography you'll probably not like so much, or types of art, whatever art form you're in. I think that mirrors itself across the board. But if you're trying to get really serious about it, it's a good idea to niche yourself, of course. It's a good idea to niche yourself to develop an audience around that specific thing, but also it's a good idea to niche yourself in terms of making money, so that when people think of you, they are thinking of a very specific... That's right. That's the guy who takes photos of live performances, whether it's a circus, whether it's a band, whether it's a dancer. Live performances are his thing, and he has this specific style that sets him apart from other people. That's a really good place to be, and I think
that's the goal.
Yeah, and I think you seem to do a fantastic job at that. So that's awesome. So, what would you hope somebody takes away from interacting with your photos? How would you hope they experience it?
That's a that's a good rabbit hole right there.
I try to ask rabbit hole questions.
I believe it depends much on the things that happen before I even take the shoot. I mean, why I'm there making that shooting, that pictures. Is there a band who came to me and said, "Oh, I really like your style. I want you to take my band in your style." Or if there's a company that comes and says, "We like your style, but we want you to make this and this and this and that." Not necessarily what you do, but what we want you to do and think you can. I think the difference between these two starting points will be total importance when it comes of what I expect people to take from the pictures when they see the pictures, right? Because if there's something that I was told to do in some kind of way, I will try to get as close as I can of that particular way, and this takes technical knowledge, takes what you actually know how to do with your equipment, with your programs, in your editing. So in these cases, what I want people to feel is nice. You got it. That's what we wanted, because this way I know my technical skills are up to this kind of task. But in the other case, when I'm taking pictures because I want, or because some that really drives me called me to, I think the main goal is to make the person who's seeing the picture, even though he wasn't there, he could more than see what went on, feel what went on. Like the picture of the drummer with the
Man, you've been watching my videos, haven't you?
Yeah. But I don't know. It's completely because of that. I think I already thought that it's a consequence cause conundrum,
Yeah, right. I see what you're saying.
Because I watch it, or I watched it you because I already thought it.
Right. Right. Yeah, it's the chicken or the egg.
Yeah, exactly,
we don't know exactly which one came first, but they influence each other. That's what matters.
Yeah. The thing is,
I think that comes through in your work. The idea that you want to communicate a feeling just as strongly as you want to communicate the visual quality of things. I love that.
Yeah, because it's definitely about, you can see something recorded with a cell phone and get really connected, and
Sure.
some really giant production that you says, yeah. So what matters is the feel, is what you feel in your gut when you're seeing something, not what you're actually seeing as a form of what you're seeing.
Well, what's
Of
so
course,
interesting is that people can take a feeling that you experienced while you're there and you tried to communicate. And of
Yeah.
course they can feel that, and that's awesome, right? And it's something that connects them to not only the photo, but you as the photographer, but also they can take that feeling and interpret it their own way and then go all sorts of different directions with that, just like music.
And still, it would be great, because if your work served as a spark to any kind of feeling, even if it's a bad feeling. Sometimes you want to cause a bad feeling. You're making war photography. You don't want people to stand and say, "Whoa, that's beautiful. I want that for me." You don't want that.
I'm so happy.
Yeah, look how this kid's dying. Oh, I'm stoked now. that doesn't seem to be the intention of the artist.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
okay,
No, it's hard
just-
to look at like a famous work, like a James Knockway or something like that, and be happy about it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, they're so dark and
Yeah,
painful
to be
feeling,
really
but so
real.
beautiful at the same time.
Yeah.
Who's your cat over there?
Oh, she's Amora. Come on. I don't think she speaks English.
Oh, okay, that's understandable. I feel like that cat would speak French.
I don't know.
You don't know yet?
She kind of communicates well in Portuguese, but I'm sure it's not her mother language.
I see. What if one day she just speaks Russian?
I probably think she's just meowing in a odd way.
Like a really angry meow?
Yeah.
Meow.
Sometimes she's angry, she speaks Russian, and I don't know it yet.
Yeah, I see. Oh, our pets. Okay, well, this is a good place to wrap this one up, I think. I've really enjoyed talking with you, man. I'm happy that we got
Appreciate it, man.
do this. Sorry for the floundering leading up to this. It's always a chaotic thing trying to get two people together in the same digital room. But we made it work, and it was fantastic. I really enjoy your work.
It was fantastic. I really like it too, man. Thanks for accepting me and
Absolutely.
wanting to have this talk. And
The pleasure was mine.
And sorry for you and all the viewers for my pesky English. I know sometimes you will have to insert a subtitle of some sort. I don't know, but it's your problem now, not mine.
Well, for one, you did well. Two, that's why they have a rewind 15 seconds button.
Awesome.
Cool. All right, well, dude, I'd love to do this again anytime, and thank you so much.
Yeah, man, me too. See you. It was great.
Okay, that is it for this one. I hope you found this conversation valuable. I'd love to hear your thoughts about the conversation below. I will link to his things below. Check him out. I hope you have a lovely day. Goodbye. I'm going to eat some lunch.